Okay.
Okay.
Yay! All right. After much sadness from discovering that our first take didn't take,
Yeah. There was a lot
we're
of
back.
wailing and gnashing of teeth.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm so glad to have Grace Pettis on here. For me, it's twice now, but if you're watching, you're only seeing her for the first time on 20 at 10 with Nat, my nightly 10 p.m. Let's stop thinking about everything that's going on in the world for just a few minutes. And tonight I wanted to show off my t shirt from Ham, which is a cool
Yay!
nonprofit here in Austin that makes healthcare affordable and accessible for musicians, which is amazing. And then my special guest tonight is Grace Pettis. Going to try and make this bio smoother. I had a run through before, so let's see how this goes the second time. Recently signed with Impress Records out of New York City. No big deal. A multi-album deal. Congratulations. Uh, I think she's won like every songwriting contest that there is, such as NPR's Mountain Stage New Song Contest. She's won grants with the Buddy Holly Educational Foundation. She's had songs recorded by other artists. In 2019, she signed a publishing deal with BMG. And then, if that's not, awesome enough, she's in a power trio of amazing songwriter women called Nobody's Girl, which have also been blowing up recently. NPR featured them in Austin 100 that they were hoping to see at South by. And then Grace also just released a single called Landon last week. Just a
Yeah.
just a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it just this Friday or like
Yeah, it was this past Friday.
all of
So,
the days since Corona have like kind of run together at this point?
yeah, it was a crazy week last week. Like, in some ways, it was a really good week, especially for me and Betty Sue and Rebecca, in terms of, like, getting
Nobody's girl.
covered by NPR and everything. We were on TV, even, Spectrum News. Like, we had, like, a big week for that kind of stuff. We got nominated for a Black
Oh
Fret.
yeah, they
It
were
was
off. Yeah.
pretty great, and like all that happened in the same week. And oh God, I'm forgetting something too. There was another cool thing, something. Anyway, the point is, it was a really good week in some ways, and then also the world exploded, and we can't like actually get together as a band like for a while now. So
It's crazy to think about, but yeah, you're right.
we can't like harmonize together because it doesn't work over FaceTime.
Yeah,
And
there's a delay. I tried that with
yeah,
one of my guests. I harmonized in one of Chris Moise's songs. He was like, "Yeah, sing harmonies," and then I tried and I listened back later and I'm like, "No, I sound like an idiot." like,
it doesn't work. I know. It's so sad
um,
because you can't do it in real time. Like,
yeah, ugh. Um, well, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Actually, twice tonight. It's our second take. Um, and I wanted to ask you a question. Let's see, maybe it's a question about songwriting.
okay,
And you can give me the same answers or different answers or whatever you want to do. I wanted to know if what your I wanted to know about three songwriting tips from you.
okay.
And I specifically I was gonna specify like, well, what's your oldest songwriting trick, or the one that your go to, like it's your foundation hardcore, like if you ever get stuck, you're like, well, I can just do blah blah blah.
Hmm. Well, there's a lot of tips and tricks. I think like I have started to be a little more militant about writing with a hook in mind because I used to just
Mm.
kind of start a song and then just like see where it would go, which is very artsy of me or whatever. But then I would like get a verse that I really loved and like most of a chorus done and just be like, I don't know what this song is about. And there's nothing more frustrating than that. Like, and I still do that like sometimes, but I've been trying to like kind of work backwards the way a lot of Nashville writers do and sort of have at least like that hook or like that concept in mind. Because I feel like it helps me sort of like focus. Um, and I think a good hook line is still really important. Like I still
You're
believe in
right.
the power of a hook line.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
yeah, so I do that, and then I shared a trick that, like, I've definitely told you about several times before, but I stole it from my friend Emily Haber. I do an image search on Google for quotes about, like, fill in the blank. So if you're writing a song about nostalgia or whatever, like, quotes about missing whatever, quotes about, regret, or quotes about no regrets or whatever, and then you kind of just see what those images are that come up with, like, the funky background and the cool font that people have, like, taken the trouble to make into this, like, Pinterestable thing. And a lot of times they're great, like, one-liners. And if you can't steal them directly, like if they're from a poem or something, you can, like, rephrase them, or just sort of, like, think about the meaning and say it in a new way, or maybe it leads you to another thought, so that you're not just, like, outright plagiarizing, but sort of classy stealing.
I mean, that's basically what art is, right? Like it's stealing, but you're like making it different and you're making it better, and it's a new
Yeah.
thing. Like nothing is really original.
No. My dad always said songwriting is like saying something that everybody knows in a way that nobody's ever heard it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. What would you say? Do you ever get
For
psyched
the
out?
record, I'm
Oh,
also stealing this cherry Coke Zero right now from my host fridge. So,
nice,
thievery.
nice.
Highly recommended. What were you saying? Sorry.
What do you ever get psyched out in? Have you ever been kind of psyched out in a songwriting session, and then like, were you able to like get out of your head and just get back into the session, or like, did you have any tips for if that happens?
Yeah, I think I said earlier that, like, a good tip is, like, if you're at, like, one of these, like, songwriting retreats or songwriting camps type of thing where you're sort of thrown in with a bunch of different people,
Mm-hmm.
don't learn anybody's last name. Don't Google anybody. If you're, like, in a contest or something, if you're entering a songwriting contest and you're all performing with other people, don't learn anybody's last names until you've done the work that you're there to do, because the more you can just humanize everybody, and just kind of connect with people in a real way, I think, like, that's what we're there to do as songwriters. When we're co-writing with each other, we're there to connect on this, like, human level and find these sort of, like, points where we meet, and maybe there's conflict, and maybe there's, like, agreement, maybe there's things in common, maybe there's things that are different, but we find those kind of points of intersection, and, like, that's what fuels a lot of the co-write. Like, musical points of intersection, personal points of intersection, all of that. So that's a lot easier when you can kind of come to the table as equals and not worry about anybody's resume. Like, you want to talk and get to know the other person, but on a human level, not on, like, a CV level.
Right.
So I think that's, like, that's been a really important thing for me. There's something else I was thinking of to say. What do you do? Like, how do you get out of it? Oh yeah, so in a lot of ways, it's kind of like stage fright. It's like you get stage fright when you're self-conscious, like when you're thinking too much about, what do people think of me? Will they like me? Do I have anything of value? Why am I up here? And, like, you get sort of in your head that way. So, like, the best cure for stage fright, there's all people have different tricks, like picture the audience naked or whatever, but it really comes down to, like, taking the focus off of yourself and putting it somewhere else. And for me, it's just kind of trying to lose myself in the song and trying to, like, get into what I'm doing. And I think for songwriting, it's really similar. If you can kind of, like, geek out just over songwriting and just sort of throw yourself into the love of writing a song and the love of connecting with another human being, I think that really helps you sort of get out of your head, whatever you need to do to get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was just envisioning the last session where I just kind of got way too much in my head, and I'm like trying to think through how would I approach that now.
Sometimes
Um,
I like to have coffee with people before I write with them. Like, I like to, like, and then just ask, let the conversation go some weird random place. Like,
yeah.
what was your favorite Christmas memory? Or, like, what, like, I don't know, what were you afraid of as a kid? What was
Mm-hmm.
your childhood fear? Did you have a recurring dream? Like, just sort of, like, weird questions like that, and just kind of get talking to the other person as, like, a person,
Right.
like it's a first date or something.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
then that's what breaks the ice a little bit, and then you're,
yeah. Well, thank you. And then do you have any like weird tips? Like strange songwriting tips?
I think I said there's a few I've heard of that I haven't actually tried, but like one is like you put two radios on either side of your head and try to hear what's in the middle of two radios on two different stations. Um, you can like there somebody said once like you take like you do a free write and then you cut up all the words and like put them in a jar and like shake it up and then like rearrange them or something like that. Something
That's
like
cool.
that Becca told me one time. Um, by the way, every time I'm talking and you're talking at the same time, like I can't hear you, which is sort of an interesting thing that's happening, but just be aware of that. So if you say anything while I'm talking, I can't tell.
That's
But yeah,
unfortunate.
I don't know. What?
That's unfortunate. Also, my computer is making a weird whirring noise, and
Cool.
that's just gonna be in the video, and it's gonna be fine.
It's all good. But yeah, weird things. What was the other one I? Oh yeah, when I was a kid, I would do this thing. I would go to the piano and just like hit a bunch of random notes, and then like try to hear the melody that happened, like da 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 da, and then try to like sing the melody until it sort of turned into an actual melody. And it was just was a way for me to sing something that I wouldn't have thought of to sing.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that can be. I was a weird kid, but I think that that can be a useful tool still.
No,
So
I
yeah.
agree. Okay. All right. Ready for a pop question, which is gonna be different than our first
Oh,
recording
fun. Okay.
because I have no idea where those cards are.
Okay.
Have you ever fallen for an internet scam?
Oh man, have I ever fallen for an internet scam? I think in the early days of Facebook, I definitely clicked on some of those Facebook messages that were like, "Oh my God, have you seen this video?" And then it's like a video, and you click the link, and it's like someone trying to steal your credit card information or whatever. Probably like or like, "Oh my God, you're gonna get in so much trouble when they see this video." I was in college, so that's dumb.
Yeah. No, those were alarming at first, and then yeah. Okay. Do you have a question for me?
Yes. Um, what was your most let me think. Okay, what was your most awkward experience on stage of all time?
Awkward experience on stage,
Mm-hmm.
like since I've started singing professionally, or like of all my whole life.
Let's say your whole life. It sounds like you have one from your childhood.
I was just trying to think because I'm like, I have felt awkward on stage, but I wouldn't say that the situations have been awkward. But there was one time when I was a kid, I was in a wedding, and my uncle was getting married, and I was a bridesmaid. I was probably like 9, maybe. And the my now aunt's niece was also not bridesmaid, sorry, flower girls. So we
Sure.
had matching dresses, and we were like walking down next to each other and everything. We get up on stage, and like the bride and groom are there, and then like the flower girls are like right kind of in front of them to the sides.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like a really long, it felt really long as a kid. And I was just like trying to stand up really straight and tall. And I like got kind of tired. And so I just kept standing up straighter and taller. And I like locked my knees. And like the room started turning yellow. And like my stomach started hurting. And I like started to kind of get hot. Like, ugh, like what is happening? And I thought I was going to throw up.
Oh my
And
God.
I was like, what do I do? So I just kept trying to stand taller and straighter, and like, yeah, it was like the worst.
Did you pass out?
No, thankfully,
Oh,
my mom was one of the bridesmaids. I guess she was a bride matron and whatever. And so I was like, do I go talk to my mom or not? Do I get sick on stage or like do something about it? And I decided I don't care. And so I went to my mom and was like, Mom, I'm gonna throw up. She's like, well, get to the bathroom. So I just like run off the side of the stage, and I'm just like floating down the aisle, my dress
just like strewing petals
yes,
behind you.
and I like make it to the bathroom, and as soon as I get there, like I feel way better, you know. And like the pastor's wife like came in to find me and like brought me crackers, and she's like, we were all so worried about you. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like not trying to be the center of attention, but basically was the center of attention.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's my awkward stage story.
That's good. I liked it.
Oh, pop question.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna have you play a song.
Okay.
Have I trained any martial art? Yes, actually.
Really?
Yes. I was highly trained in Taekwondo.
Are you shitting me?
No.
You're serious?
Yes. My very first class, it was terrifying because I showed up. Actually, hold on. So my dad and brothers started taking Taekwondo. And I was like, one of my triggers is like feeling left out. And like when my dad would always do stuff with my brothers, I was like, ugh, I hate being a girl.
I totally relate to that.
I was like, I just didn't want to be a girl. I was like, well, I want to hang out. I want to hang out with you guys. Anyways, so I was like, ooh, can I come? Can I do Taekwondo? I mean, I was like, no, it's not really a girl thing. And I was like, are you kidding me? Anyways, after they went to the very first class, he came home. He's like, actually, I want you to come. And I'm like, cool. And I realized why later, because the very first thing they teach you is self-defense.
Self-defense.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm really glad that...
So it wasn't so you could be like a badass martial arts superhero?
Well, I think ultimately that's up to me, you know? Like, how, like, are you going to be in a class? But anyways, I show up my very first class, and they, I mean, it's not like it's everybody's first class. It just happened to be my first class. There's other, like, high-ranking belts in the room. And they're like, all right, we're going to break boards today. And I'm like, and it, like, me too. Like, I broke a board on my first day. Almost broke my wrist, but I broke a board. I broke 2 boards, actually. Not next to each other, but just, like... And, like, it really matters, like, whether you're going to hit with the soft meat part of your hand or, like, this bone right here. Because the bone, you might break something, but the meat of your hand, there's a lot of power. Just so you know. And then they also had a spar. So I, like, threw punches at a person on my first day. It was terrifying. But cool, I stayed in it for a couple of years, and it was really beneficial, I would say.
That's super cool. Very impressive. It's good to know that, like, if we're ever hanging out and, you know, somebody's, like, hassling us, I'll just be like, Natalie,
I definitely know I could figure out how to disable someone pretty quickly. Or at least freak them out. Like, sometimes you just, like, give a really weird, they call it a kiop. You just make a really weird guttural sound. And it's just, like, a screech or, like, a...
I feel like I've been really good at the acting crazy to scare people thing. Like, I could do that for sure.
Yeah, you just, like, you're at them and you just make this really, like, intimidating sound and people, like, kind of freak out. Like, what?
I feel like it's the equivalent of, like, that Seinfeld episode where Elaine's trying to get out of the conversation and she's like, maybe the dingo ate your baby. And then everybody's just so, like, confused, like, that it just ends the conversation. It's great.
That's amazing. Well, I was going to ask you, would you play us a song?
Sure.
And you can play whatever you want, but I also realized you just released a single, so you might want to play that one, but totally up to you.
I think that makes sense.
All right.
Well, this is a song that I wrote for my best friend, Landon, in high school. And a little context I like to give people is that he's gay, and he came out right after we graduated. Hi, Landon, if you're watching. Love you. But, you know, I think that, you know, we went to high school in kind of a small town in Alabama, and we really sort of, I don't know, it's like when you find people that are your friends, you sort of, like, you bond in a real strong way, because it's a small group of people, so if you find someone like you, it's like this amazing discovery in a small town, you know? And he was that for me. He was, like, definitely, like, a kindred spirit. So I feel like when he came out, it was an opportunity for me to, like, listen and be on his side and be on his team, even if I didn't have all my religion figured out about what that meant at the time, you know? My job, I feel like, was pretty straightforward. It was, like, listen and love my friend. And just, you know, I didn't have to have any answers or talk at that point. But instead, I did respond, and like I said all the sort of things that you're taught to say as like a good Christian girl, love the sinner, hate the sin, that kind of stuff. And even as I was like saying those things, like they just felt really hollow because this is my best friend, and like I knew him and I knew his story, and he wasn't a sinner. You know what I mean? He was a really good person. And just trying to live an honest life. And it took me a lot of years to figure out why I felt so bad about how it had all gone down. It wasn't that I did anything like particularly cruel or heinous, but I mean, especially compared to, as he tells it, like some other people's responses, but I just wasn't there for him at this really profound moment in his life. And it was more important for me to like give the right answer, I think, than it was to actually like feel that, you know? And so I spent a lot of years like wrestling with it, and kind of wrote this song and rewrote this song, and it's an apology song. And so I sent it to him, and I was like, if you like this song, I'll play it, I'll put it out. If you don't like it, like nobody else has to hear it. And he liked it, and it sort of opened up a lot of new conversations for us, and kind of brought us back together in a cool way. So yeah, it's one I like to do, and I always like to dedicate it to anybody out there that has an apology that's a lot of years coming, a lot of years in the making. And also, I'd like to dedicate it to anybody that has an apology that they owe somebody, that they've owed them for a long time. So it's called Landon. the same.
Yay! Thank you for sharing.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Are you gonna tell that hilarious story?
Should we try again?
Yeah. Okay, I'll start it and then you take the second half.
Okay.
So, we were at Folk Alliance Conference in New Orleans. It took me a minute. And Natalie had a little bit of, like, tummy aches, like, over the past day or two. So that's just, like, to set you up with some background. And we were roommates in this hotel room there with our friend Ariel Silver, and she had laryngitis, like, at the time. So they were both kind of, like, under the weather. And I had been out, like, you know, doing conferencing it up or whatever. And I got back to the room, and, like, they're both in the kind of bed part of the hotel room. But there was, like, a little hallway and a bathroom. And so I go into the bathroom, gonna use the bathroom. And then I look down in the toilet, and, like, there is... I'm trying to, like, describe this to you. Like, there is shit. like, splattered violently against, like, every inside angle of, like,
Not
this
just brown.
toilet. Like, it was, like...
There were other colors, too.
It was mainly, like, shit colored, though. And there were other colors that were, like, disturbing other colors. Like, reds,
red, orange.
Like, what's happening? But it just looked like, you know, like, maybe one of these, like, like the blot, you know, like the blot, like, cards that they hold up that tell you something about your brain or whatever. Like, that's, like, and it just looked, like, terrifying. And I just, like, my first instinct, like, I was just like, oh my god. And I just yelled out, oh my god, are you guys okay?
And I'm in the other room, and I realize what has happened. And I'm like, it's not what you think. And I, like, run as if I can try and, like, save her from the already, like, the moment of seeing everything and being, like, scarred. And, like, but it was all very, like, innocent. Background to my part of the story, the Folk Alliance is very environmentally aware. They made sure that there were recycling bins in each of our hotel rooms, and, like, any of the materials they handed out had to be recyclable or made from recycled products. Like, even our name tags, it was thought through how that could be recycled too. And so me and Ariel ordered takeout because she wasn't feeling well, and I was just gonna, like, chunk. They had, like, the hoisin sauce and the sriracha sauce from our pho, and I was just gonna chunk it all in the trash. And then I felt so guilty. I was like, I know there's so much money went into this recycling, like, I can't no. And so I just was like, I'll just so I, like, emptied out all the sauces into the toilet, and then, like, rinsed out and, like, cleaned the cups and went and recycled them. And I had, like, made a note to myself, like, oh, you should flush that looks bad.
I mean, it looked really bad. Like,
but I totally forgot to flush it. And so all of that, like, the hoisin sauce is, like, a black brown, and the sriracha is, of course, like, a red orange.
It looked like, you know, that movie
Someone's
Alien,
about to
like,
die.
with Sigourney Weaver? It's like, except the alien, like, comes out of your asshole. That's what it would look like.
And so when she said, are y'all okay? I realized, oh, I forgot to flush the toilet. That sauce is still in there, and it looks horrible. Like, I was like, she thinks that one of us is, like, deathly ill.
Dying.
And I ran in there as if I could do something. There wasn't anything I could do except flush the toilet. And I just was like...
It was so cute because she got so embarrassed. And, like, her whole face just, like, went beet red. And she, like, runs, like, really fast. And she's like, it's not what you think. No. Like, she's just, like, trying to, like, stop me from... But then she's, like, laughing so hard. Like, she, like, can't, like, tell me what it is, like, for a couple seconds. So I'm just, like... What is happening? And, like, Ariel's in the other room, like, silently, like, laughing because she has laryngitis. It was just, like, it was pretty funny. It was
so good. Like, I have not laughed that hard the rest of this year. So And I don't know that I laughed that hard in 2019. It's been a while since I've laughed that hard, so thank you for being a part of that moment with me.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here for it. I'm here for all of the hoist and sass and sriracha. I'll set you up good next time.
Yep.
Well, thanks for sharing the memory.
Anytime.
And thanks for doing this.
That memory.
Thanks for doing this twice with me tonight and bearing with me in all the technological difficulties. I think Instagram's gonna go under. There's too many people on it.
I know.
I mean, it's just gonna like crap out or whatever.
It'll come back.
All right. Well, have a good night.
Okay,
I'll post this
too.
later for you to repost anyone you want. And yeah.
That's good. Stay safe out there.
Thanks for joining me for 20 at 10 with Nat.
Cool.
Bye.